Henry and Mrs. Clara's story conveys a message about kindness. Although Henry's life was not easy and his family faced great difficulties, he was still willing to help others. His kindness did not provide temporary assistance, but had a profound and lasting impact, changing the lives of the entire community. Let us know where you're watching from. Now, relax and enjoy this amazing story. Henry was a 16-year-old boy with a heart as warm as the little town he called home was cold in winter. Life for him and his family wasn't easy. His father worked long hours at the factory, while his mother, battling health issues, managed the household as best she could. They lived paycheck to paycheck, but Henry had learned early on that kindness didn't cost a thing. Every winter, when the streets were buried under heavy snow, Henry would grab his shovel and set out to clear driveways and sidewalks, earning a few extra dollars to help his family. One frigid morning, as Henry trudged through the snow, his eye caught the familiar sight of Mrs. Clara's house. It stood at the end of the street, a grand but weathered Victorian, with chipped paint and sagging shutters. Mrs. Clara, the oldest resident in town, lived there alone. She was a private woman, known for her sharp tongue and no-nonsense demeanor, but Henry had always found her intriguing. As he approached her driveway, he saw her struggling to open the front door against a snowdrift. Her frail frame was bundled in layers, but even from a distance, Henry could see her shaking from the cold. Without a second thought, he hurried over. "Good morning, Mrs. Clara. Need some help?" "Henry, you shouldn't be out in this cold, but yes, I suppose I could use a hand." "Consider it done." As he worked, Mrs. Clara stood on the porch, occasionally offering pointed advice. "Don't just clear the middle, make a proper path to the steps." Despite her brisk tone, Henry could sense a quiet gratitude beneath it. When he finished, she tried to hand him a few dollars, but he shook his head. "No need, Mrs. Clara. It's just nice to help. You remind me of my husband. He was kind like you, always willing to lend a hand no matter the circumstances." "Well, I'll check in on you the next time it snows." "That would be nice." "Thank you." From that day on, Henry made a point to visit her whenever the snow fell. Sometimes he found small envelopes of cash tucked into his coat pocket when he wasn't looking, but more often than not, he left with nothing more than a cup of tea and a story from her past. Mrs. Clara shared snippets of her life during these visits, opening up in a way that surprised even herself. She told Henry about her years as a school teacher, the children she had taught, and her late husband. She also revealed, with a wistful smile, that she had never had children of her own. It just wasn't in the cards. So when Brad passed, it was just me. He couldn't imagine how lonely that must have been, especially in the big, empty house she now occupied. One snowy evening, as Henry sat in her parlor sipping tea, Mrs. Clara looked at him thoughtfully. "You know, you're like the grandson I never had. That means a lot. I'm glad I can help. You've done more than help. You've reminded me that there's still kindness in the world." Though Henry never expected anything in return for his kindness, Mrs. Clara wasn't just an elderly neighbor to him. She was a friend who had taught him the value of compassion. Little did he know, her gratitude ran far deeper than he could have imagined, and her plans for him would soon reveal themselves in a way that would change his life forever. As the snow melted and the first signs of spring emerged, Henry's visits to Mrs. Clara became less about shoveling snow and more about companionship. Their conversations grew longer, and Henry found himself drawn into her world, a world filled with memories of a life that had been both full and lonely. One day, as Henry was helping her organize the bookshelves in her parlor, he stumbled upon an old photo album. Its leather cover was cracked with age, and the corners of the photographs inside were curled. "May I?" "Go ahead. That's my life in there, or what feels like 100 lifetimes ago." Henry flipped through the pages, marveling at the black and white snapshots of a younger Mrs. Clara, always smiling beside a tall, kind-looking man he guessed was Brad. "You two looked so happy," Henry said, glancing at a photo of Mrs. Clara and Brad dancing at what appeared to be a wedding. "We were. Brad had a way of making the simplest moments feel special. He always said, life was about how much light you could bring to others, even when your own days felt dark. Henry nodded, his thoughts drifting to his own family struggles. That's a good way to live. You're living it. You've got that same light he did. The comment stayed with Henry, though he didn't think of himself as anything special. One afternoon, as they sat on her porch watching the world go by, Mrs. Clara surprised Henry by handing him a small wrapped package. What's this? Just a little something. Go on, open it. This was Brad's. He used it every day, writing letters, jotting down notes. I think he'd like for you to have it. I can't take this, it's too much. Nonsense. You've given me far more than you realize. Just humor an old woman and take it. Thank you, Mrs. Clara. I'll treasure it. Spring gave way to summer, and with it came new challenges. Mrs. Clara began to slow down noticeably. Her steps grew unsteady, and she often complained of feeling tired, though she brushed off Henry's concern. One humid evening, as they sat in her parlor with the windows open to catch a breeze, Mrs. Clara leaned back in her chair and sighed. You've been a blessing to me, Henry. More than you know. You're not going anywhere anytime soon. You've got plenty of stories left to tell. Maybe so. But when my time does come, I'll go knowing I've made peace with this world, and knowing there's someone like you to carry on the things that matter. Henry didn't press her, but her words lingered in his mind. He sensed that she was preparing for something, though he couldn't quite put his finger on what. All he knew was that he would be there for her, just as she had been there for him, in her own way. What Henry didn't realize was that Mrs. Clara had been making plans that would soon come to light in ways that would take him completely by surprise. Summer turned to autumn, and Mrs. Clara's health declined further. Henry took it upon himself to visit her every day after school, not just to help with chores, but to ensure she wasn't alone. They developed a rhythm, sharing stories, sipping tea, and laughing about the peculiarities of life. One crisp October morning, as Henry arrived with a basket of apples from the farmer's market, Mrs. Clara greeted him with a faint smile. You're too good to me, she said, as he placed the basket on the kitchen counter. It's no trouble. I know how much you love fresh apples. You've been a gift to me. They spent that afternoon in the parlor, with Henry reading aloud from one of her favorite novels, while she rested in her chair. As the light outside faded, she suddenly spoke up. There's something I need to tell you. What is it? I've made arrangements. When my time comes, and it won't be long now, everything I have will go to you. Mrs. Clara, you don't have to. I don't have to, but I want to. I don't have family left, Henry. No children, no nieces or nephews, and I've lived long enough to see what really matters. You've shown me kindness when I had no one else. You've reminded me of the best in people. This house, my savings, it's all yours. Don't argue with me, young man. You've earned it. Her words weighed heavily on him in the days that followed. Though he didn't know how to respond, he resolved to make her remaining time as comfortable as possible. He cleaned her home, organized her bookshelves, and even cooked simple meals when she felt too weak to eat alone. Then, one chilly November evening, the inevitable happened. Henry arrived at Mrs. Clara's house to find the lights dim and her door unlocked. He called her name as he entered. Mrs. Clara? There was no response. Rushing to the parlor, he found her seated in her chair, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She looked peaceful, as if she had simply fallen asleep. Tears blurred his vision as he knelt beside her. Though he had known this moment would come, the pain of losing her was sharp and immediate. He sat with her until help arrived, his heart heavy with grief and gratitude. The funeral was small but heartfelt, attended by a handful of neighbors who remembered Mrs. Clara as the formidable but kind-hearted teacher she had once been. Henry spoke briefly, sharing how much she had meant to him and how her kindness had shaped his life. As he spoke, he held the fountain pen she had given him, a reminder of the bond they had shared. A week after the funeral, Henry received a letter from Mrs. Clara's lawyer. He met with the lawyer in a quiet downtown office, listening intently as the will was read. Just as she had promised, Mrs. Clara had left him everything: the house, its contents, and a modest savings account. Initially, Henry's parents were hesitant to accept such a gift. Their previous home, a cramped rental with creaky floors and drafty windows, had been a source of constant stress. Between the mounting medical bills for his mother's illness and his father's dwindling factory hours, the family had struggled to keep a roof over their heads. His father paced the tiny kitchen of their rental house, his calloused hands fidgeting with the edge of the table. "It doesn't feel right. Taking her house just like that. It's too much." Henry placed Mrs. Clara's letter on the table, his voice steady but filled with emotion. "She didn't just leave it for us to live in. She wanted us to take care of it, to use it for something good. This wasn't just about charity. It was her wish." His mother, sitting quietly at the table, looked over at the peeling wallpaper and the stack of unpaid bills on the counter. "Maybe she saw how much you cared for her. Maybe she knew you'd honor her memory." After much discussion, they agreed to move in, but not without a profound sense of humility. They packed up their belongings, just a few boxes of clothes, kitchenware, and the handful of items they'd managed to save over the years. As they approached the grand Victorian house, with its wide front porch and tall bay windows, it felt like stepping into another world. For Henry's mother, the house offered a chance to breathe again. She quickly claimed a corner of the sunny parlor, setting up her sewing machine and a basket of fabric scraps. It became her sanctuary, where she sewed blankets for the family and mended clothes for neighbors who couldn't afford new. Her quiet work filled the room with warmth, a stark contrast to the cold, anxious nights they had spent in the rental house. His father, worn from years of grueling factory work, found a new sense of purpose in fixing up the house. The sagging shutters, peeling paint, and creaky floorboards were no match for his determination. "If we're going to live here, we're going to make it ours, and keep it the way she would have wanted." For Henry, moving into the house brought a mix of emotions. It was a relief to see his family settle into a place where they could finally feel safe, but he couldn't ignore the responsibility that came with it. He spent his evenings exploring its many rooms, opening drawers, and peering into dusty corners, learning more about Mrs. Clara's life with each discovery. This wasn't just a house. It was a living testament to the power of kindness and the legacy of a remarkable woman who had believed in him when it mattered most. Kindness is not just about helping others. It is also the way we connect with people, share love, and build a positive spiritual legacy. Every act of kindness creates a profound change, not just for one person, but for the entire world around us. Are you willing to help a neighbor shovel snow like Henry did? Please share your thoughts in the comments below. If this story touched your heart, give it a like and share it with others. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel to hear more inspiring stories. Goodbye, and see you soon.